This episode is brought to you by Farmers Insurance. When was the last time you reviewed your insurance policy? So it's been a while, huh? Well, no worries. My friends at the Austin Brummett Agency would love to hear from you and provide you with some amazing rates. Give them a call at 678-402-8262 or email them at abrummett@farmersagent.com. That's ABRUMIT at farmersagent.com, and tell them Harli sent you. Insiders, Inside the Bubble with Harli G is now sponsored by BetterHelp. As a partner of this episode, listeners can access the BetterHelp link located in the show notes to receive 10% off your first month of therapy with BetterHelp and get matched with a therapist who will listen and help. Go to BetterHelp, that is BetterHelp.com/Inside the Bubble, the link to get started. You're listening to Inside the Bubble with Harli G, the podcast for the superwoman. Every week, we connect with amazing individuals who share their inspirational experiences and stories while motivating and inspiring purpose. It's time to hang your cape. Grab your coffee, your water, your cocktail, and come on inside the bubble with me, your host, Harli G. Welcome, insiders, to Inside the Bubble with Harli G. As we are nearing the end of the year, new resolutions, one of the things that I like to do is kind of self-reflect about, this journey, life, all of that. And also really grateful about some situations and stories and experiences that I have gone through as part of life, as part of my journey. And I love to hear individuals' stories and experiences. We're all facing challenges, but it's really truly inspirational when you have people come on your journey to help you support, whether it is a friend, whether it's a colleague, whether it's a spouse, whether it's your family. Your support system is really important. And one of the things that I am really excited to talk about today is Brian and his wife Katherine are going to talk to us about their journey. Brian is a military veteran and Katherine is his spouse, and we're just going to talk about, like Brian mentioned something very, very eye-opening right before we started, was that a couple of weeks ago I had Bill Howard turn on the podcast. Thank you, Bill. And he shared his journey in the military. And oftentimes we focus on that journey, right? But what about life outside of that? Like, how do you do life? What does support look like? What are some challenges that you come across as a result of that? So I can't wait to get into this. But first, thank you, Brian and Katherine, for coming on. And Brian, I want you to talk a little bit about your journey and how you even enrolled in the military, how you got started.
So you'll notice probably a common theme in everything I talk about. All my good ideas come from Katherine.
He does say that quite often, multiple times in the conversation, by the way.
It's true. She's the brains behind the operation. So we met in college. So we were at Georgia Southern, undergrads. I used to have really long hair and like holes in my jeans.
We need pictures.
Yes.
My hair
Send them, Katherine, send them.
My hair was like yours,
What?
but not quite that long.
Okay.
But it was and I was too cool for anything, basically. And so, I met Katherine. I graduated, and this was in 2009. And so there was, the job market was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
So I submitted tons of job applications. Mm-hmm. I got one job offer at a Dollar General as an assistant clerk.
Wow.
And they told me if I worked hard, I might make full clerk.
Whoa!
If I tried really, really hard.
And how long did it take you to get there? Or did you even make it?
Oh, I didn't do that.
It's like, nope.
Like when we were growing up, it was like you go to college, you get a degree,
yes,
you get a good job.
Yes.
Yeah, this is what's going to happen.
This is what life is.
Yeah, and then 2008, we're all looking to graduate. Mm-hmm. It's like, just kidding. No, there's no jobs. So, I'm sitting at Catherine's house at the time. We were not engaged yet. I was sitting there and, just sitting there feeling bad about myself. And she's like, dude, one, you look like a bum. Two, you gotta, like, make a plan for your life because you're being a bum. She's like, why don't you join the Army? And I was like, Army doesn't want me. Look at me, I got beard and long hair. And, it turns out we're fighting 2 wars and on multiple fronts. So I could talk to a recruiter, and the Army definitely wanted me.
They're like, you're perfect.
They're like, you're relatively physically fit. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So the recruiter did say, hey, this is to his credit. I think this isn't something that we hear often enough. Because usually people are like, the recruiter lied to me. For me, the recruiter's like, look, dude, it's 2009. Like, I don't need people. He's like, I'll take you. Don't get me wrong, but you have a college degree. You should go be an officer. I was like, I don't know what that is. I didn't know anything about the military other than, my girlfriend, who's way smarter than me, was like, you should join the military. So he's like, go on campus, talk to ROTC, see if ROTC will pay for your master's degree. I was like, all right, whatever. So I go to ROTC, and there's a guy named Bill Roberts, who's just an incredible human being. And he was able to look past my long hair and my scraggly beard, my, like, holy jeans, and the fact that, like, I never wore shoes at the time, sort of thing. And he's like, yeah, you have potential. I was like, I don't know, man.
I don't see what you see, but okay.
He's like, look, if you want to join us, we'll pay for your master's degree, and we'll give you a $50,000 a year job. I was like,
wow. And then...
Nailed it.
I mean...
It was that or Dollar General.
Oh, God.
Not even as a clerk.
It's almost kind of like, do you want the red pill or the blue pill? Choose wisely.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, yeah, man.
Okay.
So actually, next, I'm still in the reserve, and next week will be 13 years.
Wow.
So
awesome. Now, when you went in, sorry to interrupt you, was it going to be a long-term goal, or was it going to be like, hey, I'm going to be in there and I'm going to get my master's and then I'm going to move on with life?
I'm not a planner.
Okay, got it.
You should see his face. Like, I just got to do things until I get bored with them and then do something else.
Okay.
So
perfect.
although for me, my contract ended. So officers have an initial contract. If we aren't enlisted, we're commissioned. It's like an act of Congress sort of thing. And so officers' commissions never really expire, not until you hit like mid-60s, like 65 or something. So at that point, you're no longer on the active roster to be called up for your commission, unless you have a very unique specialty and they have to have you, something like that. Yeah. So enlisted guys come in and they'll have a contract, and if they don't re-sign, well, when your contract's up, you're out. See you later, bud. That's not like that for officers. Okay. So my contract ended in 2014.
Oh,
I
wow.
just kept showing up, so they kept paying me.
They're like, this guy's not going away.
Well, so it's like I'm in the reserve now and have been for a couple of years. And, if I don't want to show up anymore, I don't have to. Like, they'll want to really come looking for me. I'll just be like, hey, guys, I'm done. Okay. And they'll be like, are you sure? We really would like to keep you. Yeah. Or they'll be like, thank God.
Oh! It depends on who answers the phone.
That's
right. No, just
So, I keep doing it because I enjoy it, and, we get really great health insurance and stuff like that.
So, and then what is your major? So, what do you do? Your professional,
So I started out as an infantry officer.
Okay.
So when I commissioned, I did my master's degree, and the way it works for ROTC graduates, some of us spend time in the reserve while we're cadets, and then some of us are just cadets, and we have scholarships and stuff. So for me, I go get ready to commission. They said, "Well, what do you want to do?" I said, "Look, I don't care. I still don't know anything about the Army. I'll be anything but an infantry officer." And they were like,
infantry officer.
You're gonna be an infantry officer. Like,
oh gosh,
not awesome. So I remember calling Catherine. I was like, oh no. So by then we'd already got married.
Okay.
We had just gotten married.
And I remember we bought. This was like 9. No, 10.
No,
this was 2010. So we bought like iPhones so we could FaceTime because we knew that I was gonna have to go off and do some training and come back. I remember we got these iPhones so we could FaceTime because it was just a temporary duty type of training for me. And I actually commissioned as an AG officer. And months later, I call the schoolhouse and I'm like, hey, where's my billet, man? Like, I got a family. I'm married. I got to feed myself. He's promised me $50,000.
Yeah.
And there's a female major had answered the phone. I was a new lieutenant, didn't know anything. I still don't know a lot. And I was like, hey, I'm looking for my school date. She's like, why are you calling me? I was like, well, because your number's there and I need to go to school. She's like, but you're an infantry officer. I was like, no, I'm an AG officer, human resources. She's like, no, you're not. And I was like, no, I am. She's like, look, Lieutenant, don't call me again. You need to call infantry branches. I'm like, okay. So I called ROTC where I got commissioned, and they said, well, hold on. Turns out that they had changed what I had commissioned as, and it went to the person's like junk spam folder. And she's like, oh yeah, oops, hold on, you need to call these people. So I waited a couple months to get a date. So by then we got married. We bought these cool phones, like FaceTime. It was awesome. And I called Callie like, hey, I'm not going temporary duty there anymore. We're permanently moving to Fort Benning.
Okay.
Because infantry officers, we start out with our basic officer course where we learn like basic tactics, and then we all go to airborne, and then we all go to ranger school, and then if you're really, really good, you go to like better schools.
Okay.
Whatever. And then you move off and go to your unit. So we're at Fort Benning, and we're supposed to go to Fort Drum, which is in upstate New York. And then the last second they changed it to Seattle, Washington, or Tacoma.
Yeah.
So where Fort Lewis is. So
okay.
Everything was constantly, there was a lot of change and constantly shifting.
I'm going to just go from the beginning in the sense of whenever we first met. And I remember having that conversation of like, hey, he's like, just graduated. I wasn't graduating until the following summer.
Okay.
And so whenever he came, he was like, hey, I just graduated, and they're telling me about, being at the Dollar General. I was like, no, what?
You're better than that.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, no, you are better than that. You can do something else. And
not there's anything wrong with working at the Dollar General.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong.
I was absolutely not. I'm still not better than that. I'm just lucky to have Kathy.
But I was just like, no. I was like, no, you are just so smart, and just so many different things of the qualities that I've seen, and the ambition and all of these things. And I was like, no. And so I remember seeing the uniform on campus at Southern, and I was like, hey, I know you want to continue. I know you want to get your master's and eventually your PhD. And he was like, yeah, but maybe it's just not the time. I was like, just go talk to him. And when he did, and he said, guess what? They were like, yes. And I was like, great, yes. I was like, yeah, I knew they would. And so he did that, and it was so funny because our relationship.
Ladies, I know there's so much to do and not enough time in the day. Trust me, I'm right there with you. But what are you doing for yourself? Well, I've recently discovered Body Bar Pilates. Let me tell you a little bit about it. Body Bar Pilates will challenge all of your major muscle groups and provide you with a full body workout. Wow. Listen, I had to check it out. I took a class with Sherelle and it was amazing. They have workouts for all skill levels, whether you're just starting out or you're just looking for a new way to move your body. This is the community for you. Check out my friends at Body Bar Pilates East Cobb, or give them a call at 678-941-4371. And don't forget to mention me, Harli G.
It was something that I feel like it just flowed. It was just so easy. And I had no idea about the military at all.
I was just going to ask you, what made you, other than the fact that you saw them on campus, what made you suggest that in the first place?
Great question. Because I have nothing, I had no knowledge of the military other than I'm like, I know that they'll help you pay for school, and I forget how I knew that, but I just hey.
She's like, you look great in that uniform.
That's a true story.
Listen.
I will say, hey, yes,
my husband is a retired police officer. I'm just saying, there's something about that uniform.
Those uniforms, they get you.
I'm just saying. I can agree with that wholeheartedly.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so we, and so when he did, he put his uniform on, and I was like, all right. We had our first, we went
I was just going to say, when did the first child come?
That wasn't until, so we had, that was a little bit later.
Okay, got it.
It took us a while to figure
It
that
did.
out.
It took us a bit. So
Okay.
so when we got married, it was such such a whirlwind because we literally got married. He commissioned. He got his master's. Our wedding was all in the same week.
What?
It was literally bam,
it was
bam,
like
bam,
Thursday,
bam.
Friday, Saturday.
Yes.
Wow.
That's how our wedding, that's how it was. And then I had just started working for the state. So I had graduated with my bachelor's in psychology, and I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was an opportunity where I started working for the state as a child protective service investigator.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked for Savannah for quite a bit until we figured out, because I knew that he was in the military. So I was like, I don't know where we're going to go. Or, you know, I had an idea, you know, of like it was going to be a little bit of instability, but I didn't know what it was going to look like. But I do know that they were going to be flexible because there's child protective services in every state, right? Or in every county or what have you. Little did I know, though, just the complexities of that whole job in itself. But anyway, so we did. We were like, okay, hey, we're going to go here. No, just kidding. We're going to go here. Oh, by the way, you went from HR to infantry, and we're going to go over here. And I was like, wow, wait, what? Infantry? Like, that totally, I think it was just so not even on the list at all, I think. And I was telling him, I was like, it's just so weird how the journey in the sense of the military, in the sense of with us, is that I know Brian has always been very good of talking, communicating, explaining a lot of the military jargon, knowledge, this and that. And it's still like, okay, I get that. But on the spouse or the wives or the families, I'm like, there is no book, just like there's no parenting book, just like there's no, you know.
There's no how-to guide.
There's no how-to guide.
Does not come with instructions.
No, there's no instructions.
Yes.
There's no instructions. And, you know, it's funny, when we moved to Washington, that was the first time, you know, that it was us. And we stayed there for a good hot minute. It was, I think, about almost 5 years. That's where we had our son.
Well, so something that you didn't really mention is, you know, so she had her first job in Savannah, and then we moved to Columbus, and it's like, it's a move. Yeah. And it's a family move, right? We all moved, but we were only supposed to be there for 9 months. Like 9 months, that's it. And so, you know, she can't go and get a job with like a good conscience. Hey, I'm here to train and help protect families and work with these folks. And so she took a... yes, and that is right. So the reality was I was burnt out with my 2 years of working for the state at that time. But I did know, hey, we're going to have to leave. And so in Columbus, I was like, what do I do? Because it was such short term.
Yeah, right.
And so I ended up working, I was the admin assistant for the Department of Labor down there, which I learned a lot of, you know, different things. But then again, it's one of those where you're like, man, I could see myself career-wise or what have you, of like, oh, this is what I want to do, but you don't. But I don't want to go full in
exactly,
because I already
and then
knew
have to
that I was going to move,
right.
And so majority of my stuff is like hobbies or just different kind of things. And so anyway, so I did that there at the Department of Labor, knowing that we were going to go, well, initially it was Fort Drum, but then we got moved to Washington State at Fort Lewis. And so again, it was like, well, I want to get my master's, you know. Again, that was something that was put in the back burner. Right. Just for a while, because I was like, well, we're going to have to move. If I start a program, I don't want to be like, oh, just kidding. You know, I can't move, you know, or take these credits.
And back then, it wasn't virtual like it is now,
oh,
right?
Goodness, no.
Like, if it had been now, okay, you know, like even getting a job, you know, you could be working virtual, you could go to school virtual, you could do that, but back then we weren't there yet.
It was the online schools. Yes. And guess what the online schools have? A lot of them is a lot of debt, right?
Yes,
you know, with the student loans, a lot of those kind of things. And it was just very hard. So again, I started, you know, working, and I will say that what's kept me, I've always been very supportive, and I continue on being supportive in the sense of with Brian and his work and the ambition and all of that stuff. But I've always had my own independent stuff, whether it was my job, the kids. Like, I've always had my thing, and I learned very early on that I was definitely a career woman as well. Like, staying at home is not on my cards.
I did it for 9 months, and I was like, okay, that's great. I'm done with it.
I'm like, I love them. I love my kids.
Yes.
But I like having my own
I'm not
space.
staying at home with them. It's not.
This is not for me.
No.
But this is a really interesting point. There's a couple of things that are probably worth noting. So one is the way she's talking about this is like when we moved to Washington, the expectation for officers is you move every 2 to 3 years. So like you mentioned that, the schools weren't virtual. And so by the time you get there and get settled in, you can't start a program, especially for what she does.
Yeah.
Because like you're not going to have time to finish it, and then you got to move again. On top of that, you transition all these jobs, so every time you move, an employer looks at your resume and they're like, "Well, why can you not keep a job?"
Right,
and they're like, "Well, now my spouse is in the service," and they're like, "Oh, so you're not going to stay here?" Okay, thanks. And they won't say that,
right?
That's the expectation.
Absolutely.
So that's one piece, but then you also have a problem on the other side where there's a very much like the military is very like a masculine culture where wives support the husband. And so for me, I'm like, my wife works and she's her own person and she has great ideas and she's brilliant and I love that. Like she's not, the white glove sipping tea with your bonnet wife. I don't like that. She doesn't like that. But there's very much an expectation of that.
Right.
And that was, I learned that firsthand when I was at Benning. And that wives' office, I had no idea. Brian had talked about the officer wives and the enlisted
they have like
wives
their own little community,
and their community
right?
and all of that. And I was like, okay, but I didn't understand. And then once I was in it, I was like, I understand. But I was like, this is very like we can all be together, like But a lot of people took
offense to that.
Well, I don't know in the sense of offense, but it was like I said, I work, and I had that, and it was like, wow, you work, you're not there for your husband, you're not supporting him, you're not, that was the expectation. I'm like, oh no, I can do both. I can support him, and I can be me as well,
So I love that. I love that. It sounds like you never lost your identity, your dependence, what you wanted. Like your goal was very much like. You as a person, Katherine, you thrived. It sounds like no matter what the environment was or the expectations were, supposed to be. You were just like, no, I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna do me.
Yes. And it was sometimes where I guess I was like, am I doing this wrong? Like, is this not the way it's supposed to be? But whenever we were needed to be at a function or what have you, or being there, I am ingrained in the sense of I'm a helper. I am definitely of like, hey, come here, like entertaining, like let's all get together, that's just who I am. And so we've always, in the sense of, I guess had that balance of like, yes, this is me, this is the career, but if you need help, who all needs help, there's resources out there. It's the social work in me. Yes. I ended up getting my master's 10 years later, but yes, my master's, and it's just the hat with regarding from state to state, seeing all of the family, seeing the different things that, happen. And it's really the lack of everybody, the soldiers needed that family. We would always have the single soldiers come to the house for Christmas. Yeah. For, whatever it is, just come on over. Yes. Like, we'll cook, we'll, take care, with regarding that. But at the end of the day, I think is that identity, right? As being an independent person of like, yes, their role, their jobs, it is all over the place. Yes. They come home late. You will be by yourself. You will end up being, an anniversary will be missed. A birthday will be missed. All of these things will be missed. But I will say that Brian, at the end of the day, would always, it may not be, no, actually I will say no. He always made sure that if he was gone, that there was something in the sense of like a present, a memory, whatever it was. I have a charm bracelet of all the places where he had traveled and would bring me a charm. So I was always a part of that.
A lot of the places I went, they didn't have Pandora jars.
Well, no.
Oh, yeah.
No places that
Places
could.
that
Okay,
fit
places
more
that
Yes,
could.
yes.
But
I love
he
that.
would always bring back something, and even so, our son William, itty bitty guy, he would bring like stuffed animals. So like he would always have that, you know, to say, hey, I may be gone or I may be doing this, but
I'm
it
always
was
thinking
always
about you.
thinking,
Yeah.
always thoughtful, always. And you know what? Like I said, I think it gives me a different perspective of like, you know, those days, I guess, or whatnot, is that it's those little things that count, right? But he always made sure, like, hey, this is, you know, family's taken care of, and yes, you know, my job, you know, has me doing all the things. But I also understood.
Right.
I knew that, hey, that was the way it was going to be. And that's okay. I wasn't going to make it harder or anything like that.
What was support system like for you though? So like, because we're talking about you supporting Brian and you being that community for him and all of this, but what does that look like and what is that for Katherine?
So I will.
Could I start this? So for like a soldier, when you go to a new base, they have an official sponsorship program. And, you know, another soldier is supposed to like meet you, bring you in, show you around, like show you where the good food is or whatever. And like,
it's very important.
And that's what it's like for us. And we have like an instant buddy pair.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I was a company commander, I had a first sergeant. When I was a platoon leader, I had a platoon sergeant. You know, when I take like whatever jobs, I always have an NCO there to help guide me.
Right. So for me, it took me, it was my job. I will say that everywhere that we had moved, I had my support system of my coworkers.
Got it.
My coworkers knew, the job in itself, working for Child Protective Services it's a hard job. So I had their support. They became family. They ended up doing that. But I will say that there was one particular family that took both of us in, and was he was first sergeant, and his wife, and they pretty much took both of us in, and they were like, we are going to take care of y'all. We're going to like be there for y'all, and they literally did that. We were invited. We barely knew them, but we were invited to birthday parties, every gathering. They would have homemade food.
Community social events.
Yes, social events. They were there, and so that showed me that okay, I am a part of your family. You are my social support. I was able to have conversations with her about the job because she understood that part of the job.
Yeah.
And at the same time, she worked.
Yes.
And she had her kids.
That.
So we had a lot of common ground.
Yes.
To where we both understood that that's their job. This is us. And, you know, this is what we do. So we had each other. And then on and so forth, I got to know other wives, you know, and that's how that started. But there was not a sign-up sheet of like, hey, spouse and spouse. I would say women can be very...
well, they're supposed to be.
Well, right.
So they're supposed to be.
Yes.
It's something that the Army in particular calls family readiness groups. And
okay.
So FRGs get together, and it's the spouses, and they all, in a perfect world, bond. And they work together, they do social events, and they decorate for Christmas and wrap presents, and they, you know, if another spouse has a baby, they take them food, and, you know, they do all this stuff to help. Problem is, there's really no central command for that. It's whoever spouse is who feels that they have time to lead that, and they often have like a direct link to the commander, and so they tend to wear the commander's rank. The spouses do, and they establish a hierarchy. Like, oh, you're Major Moore's wife, so you're a little higher than Sergeant Smith's wife. Oh, and you're lower than. And it becomes this hierarchy, and it's just extremely toxic.
Yes.
I'm trying to think if I've ever, even ours, I don't know that I've ever seen it, like when I was a commander, I don't think I've ever seen an FRG done well.
Okay. I don't think that I ever...
They have tons of potential.
Yes.
It just rarely works out.
Exactly. It's just the titles, right? They look at the titles and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to do this. And I'm like, and again, I don't work that way. I don't work that way. But it was a lot. And it could be very, instead of helpful, it could be on the contrary. you know, very toxic, very, you know, like just drama and all of these different things.
A lot of it gets pretty catty.
Yes.
And so you do see too, like there's two types of families. You have the ones who live on base, and so they're always right next to each other.
Always, yes, yeah.
And then you have ones like we've never lived on base. We always lived at
off.
least a half an hour away, and we would make civilian friends in the community. I didn't talk about being in the army. Like, I just like that's not really a big piece of my identity, and I don't care about it.
Right.
You know, it's like for me, it was like, hey, I got my wife, and we have our friends. We're having a good time. We're being good, like members of our community.
So, did you feel like for you, you know, you kind of needed that separation between that world and then just because, like you said, you guys live 30 minutes off of base, so it was kind of, it sounded like it was a little separated intentionally.
So I don't think it was intentional, at least certainly not at first. But for me, it was like, hey. I went through my first couple of years in the Army. I had a tough go of it. I had a really bad attitude. Like you couldn't tell me anything. I was smarter, stronger, faster. You couldn't tell me anything. And I had a boss who made it his personal mission to bring me down to earth. It was tough. I was like, dude, I have a master's degree. I don't need this job.
Right.
I was like, the market's improved. I can leave. Like,
right.
Like,
and he was like,
I was like, you don't want me here? He's like, no, you're gonna stay. He's like, I'm gonna break you. And I was like,
that became his personal mission. Are you guys still friends? Do you guys still talk?
Oh, we were never friends.
We
were. I found that guy in the Home Depot today.
Somebody might get a call.
I might be going to jail now.
Oh my gosh.
No, we were never friends. It was tough. So I used that time to really unwind.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, on my way home.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm on the way home. I'll see you in 30 minutes, whatever. Like,
yeah.
And I would just have to take a lot of deep cleansing breaths.
Yes.
Man, it was.
Yeah.
And it was solely my ego. And this guy did nothing wrong. It was me. I needed to be brought down.
Brought down a few notches.
And I still need to be humble. Especially then.
It sounds like maybe you've gotten better at it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why Catherine stuck with me in the first ever, actually. I still don't know why.
Oh, my goodness.
And I will say that, right, just like with different jobs or different career paths or different things like that, is that seeing how, like he was just saying, he was going through it. And I could see that, and I'm like, okay, is it, being newly married, and all of, everything intertwined. But at the end of the day, it's okay. I think even, I just remember just sitting there, and I'm like, what is this? What
are you doing?
But it's just to have that moment. But then at the end of the day, it's like, all right, we're back at it. And I think it was understanding, just like a new job. It pretty much a year into it, you're like, okay,
we're starting to find out.
Yeah, we're finding out. Hey, we're in a different state. We, they have. I will say the food up there though. Oh my goodness, phenomenal. I was like. Good food. Absolutely. But it's just those kind of things. And then meeting new people and just feeling more comfortable and,
Well, and so it's something too, like, us aside, I think we thrived away from family. I know, like, my mom's going to listen to sorry, we did. We love seeing you. We had a
sorry,
good time.
not sorry.
Yeah.
She knows the truth. A lot of people are, especially young couples, you see like a private or a specialist or a young sergeant, and they're like 18 to 20 years old, and they're away and they meet somebody, and like having like the new spouse's family there, or alternatively being away from family, can cause unique dynamic issues that they don't quite know how to address. Like for us, every vacation time, like we take vacation, we fly back and see family. It costs us like thousands of dollars, and it was never really a vacation. It was like work. We're like, all right, we gotta go make all our rounds. We gotta go see mom. We gotta go see dad. We gotta go see aunts. We gotta go see uncles. We gotta go see grandparents. It was work. Like we would get home, we were just like, oh my god, we're so
done.
Yeah.
We need another vacation.
Right.
The next vacation, we're doing the same thing over and over. And we got to the point where we were feeling guilty if we didn't do something like that. And it wasn't up until a couple of years ago we were like, you know what, we're doing a vacation for us. And we went to Germany to stay with one of our friends from the Army for Christmas. And that was cool. We saw Christmas markets and with the France and ate like croissants and stuff.
Yeah, no, it was great.
Let's say,
yes.
oh, sorry about the World Cup, France. Okay. Hang in
Go Argentina.
Hang in. Wow! Oh God, we got a traitor in the house.
World Cup, I'm like from.
You're like,
yes.
oh yeah, my husband is Polish, so yes. Anyways, but yeah.
But yes, and it is. So I will say, all in all, with the 13 years. So yeah, 13 years we've been together. And then with the military, and then the different career paths.
Bryce's like, why?
It hasn't even felt. It's like
I know.
Like 5 minutes.
It's
like
5
that.
seconds.
Yeah.
I know.
Crazy.
Years. I know. But it's all in all, in the sense of, I think that the military, I always say that it's been so good to us.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned so many different things. I've seen, like, we've gotten to travel, different, friends. I will say a lot of the friends, their family.
Mm-hmm.
I can call my friend in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't talked to her maybe in months.
It doesn't
I can
matter.
call her, and it's right where
you
we
never
picked
skipped
off.
a beat. Yep.
It's just those kind of relationships, but then at the same time, you end up learning that your space, like your family, you are very selective and protective of what that looks like. That is something that I think that, I know I've learned, in us, when it comes to who's in our circle, who's in our bubble. But then it also gives you a lot of different perspectives of families.
Yes.
Like, every family's so unique. Every family's so different. And so
you tend to run into a lot of diverse families as well.
Yes.
It's like a ton of diverse families, which is really neat. And so that's another opportunity, I think, for people to look at the service as an experience. Like military kids who grow up and they have to move a lot, tend to make close acquaintances. I don't know if friends is the right word, but they tend to be resilient, and they bond well with others, and you're exposed to so much diversity.
Yes.
It's really kind of cool.
Okay. So how many kids do you guys have?
So we have 2. Our son is 7, and then our daughter is 3.
Okay.
Going on 15.
Trust me, I got a 10-year-old going on. You saw what she did. And so how do you feel like you all being a military family has impacted them? So you just talked about like them being resilient, but they're fairly young, right? And so
so that's like military children broadly. So we again, all of our good ideas come from Catherine. So the first couple of years I was in the Army, it did not go well for me. I'm serious. It was really, really bad. My first evaluation report said, with continued development, has potential.
Okay, so like, we'll see. That's another way of saying, the verdict is still out.
That's real bad.
Okay.
Real bad. And so normally you want a report that's like, Brian is number 1 of 50 and has unlimited potential. Brian's the next like 15-star general. Like, that's what you wanted to say.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh God, like what have we done? Why is this person getting uniform? And I was not self-aware at the time. I didn't care. I was like, look, dude, I hate you. You hate me. I never wanted to do this. Like infantry. Right. This is not for me.
Right.
Whatever. So Catherine, I'd taken company command, which I hated. Hated it. It was with the same dude who was like,
that dude.
He was gonna
yes.
break me.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? I think you're ready for this. And I was like, I don't want that. And he's like, I didn't ask you. This is what you're doing. And I was like, okay. So I took company command, and it went fine. All things considered. But toward the tail end of it, I had another battalion commander who had like taken me under his wing. I was still a junior officer, and I was like complaining. I was like, "Oh, sir, it's really hard over here, and I don't like these guys." He's like, "I don't like those guys either." I was like, "Perfect, we're So he had taken me under his wing, and he's like, "Hey, look, there's a new general coming to take over one of the big commands." He's like, "I know him. He reminds me a lot of you. You guys will get along really well." He's like, "Go and interview to be his aide." So for us, if you're a new officer coming in the military, your chances of becoming a general one day is like 0.00001% chance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically none.
Okay.
Whereas people who are aides, their chances of becoming a general is about 25%.
Wow.
So it's like
that's
get a 1 in 4
major.
chance. Yes,
Yeah.
because you get really close mentorship with
Yes.
a very senior leader who's
Right.
clearly been successful and knows lots of stuff. And I was like, nah, nobody's gonna want me. And Catherine's like, don't self-select out. Go give it a try.
Right. That's
So
right.
at the time she was pregnant.
I was ginormously pregnant with my son. All I ate was fried rice. All I ate. And I'll leave it at that.
I
And I'll
love
leave
me
it
some
at
rice.
that.
Okay, I'm not. There's no judgment here. I love me some rice. Hello.
It was so good.
I come home with like a gallon of rice and
He was like, oh. Yes,
No, she
but
did
you know,
rice
but
and
yeah.
He knew the way.
Breakfast.
He
Wow.
knew
Hey,
the way
he
to
did.
your heart.
He
He
did.
did.
At that time, that's exactly.
So grateful.
Yeah,
It was
about
okay.
the rice by the shovel.
That's
so bad.
Yes.
But yes.
Yeah.
So yes, I was like, apply for it.
So she's like, apply. So I write my little cover letter, and
Mm-hmm.
I get a call like, hey, he wants to interview you. I was like, oh, cool. So I interviewed with him. I was like, hey, just full disclosure, my wife's pregnant. And he says, well, is she going to be okay with you taking this job? And I remember laughing and saying, she's going to have to be. Right?
She suggested it.
Yeah, like it's the military,
She's the one
right?
who said
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he laughed, and I didn't hear from him for like 6 weeks
Yeah.
or so. And so I was like, oh, I guess I could get the job.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Catherine had given birth. We had just had William, and it was like we'd been up like 36 plus hours with her in labor and having the kid, and I was exhausted. And I get a call on my cell from General Haley. He's like, "Hey, it's Jack Haley. He's a general. Little."
That sounds like that
little
should be a
guy."
TV show, by the way. Jack Early.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
My bad.
if you ever met him, he would also agree with you.
Jack Ryan, Jack Haley.
Logistics genius. I'll have to send him this excerpt. So anyway, he's like, hey, it's John Haley or whatever, and I was like, and I was exhausted. I was like, and I was like, what? I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I decided to hire you. I was like, that sounds great. And it was a couple seconds later. I was like,
What just happened?
And I was like, oh. So I just showed up like a couple days later. This was like 3 days afterwards, where I show up to the headquarters, and I was like, I was so tired. Did he say he hired me or he didn't hire me? I didn't follow up. I was like, sounds good, whatever, dude. I was exhausted, and I didn't care. And turns out he had hired me, and he's like, this is great.
Yeah.
And, again, Catherine's a good idea. She's like, yeah, go work for that guy.
Yeah, he did, and and I will say, during that time, no, it was great. His wife was so supportive, and again, very supportive. She had been, along her husband's side for 20 plus years.
Similar sort of thing. I mean, she was like an executive for
a makeup
major
major
company,
brand, so very career oriented, very with their kids, like just driven in that way, and so very it was amazing, to see that. But they were all always very
like
supportive.
to this day,
of
every
stories.
time we go up near where they live, like we'll have dinner with them.
It's like you said, they're family, right?
Yeah,
like an
it
extension
is.
of your family.
It's just that that kind of mindset. But I guess that's my main thing, and even now, whenever we have around new, I guess married or in the military or what have you, and I always say my main thing is that you be you, you do you, like you do what's best for you. Everybody's got their opinions. Everybody will tell you this is how it's going to be. Everybody has all of that, but at the end of the day, is that you be yourself as a woman, as a partner, or however it is. I mean, it goes, both ways. Is that you be who you are. You stay true to who you are. They really have no control as to what that's going to look like. And at the end of the day, they want to be home. They want to be with you, but sometimes they can't. Sometimes they have to do all sorts of stuff. And then their jobs, and things that they do, like, you can't even, like, fathom, that whole thought process or whatnot. And
so like an example of that, one day it was Valentine's. And like
Mm.
Valentine's Day, we had dinner plans. So
Catherine's over here cackling. Like
Yeah.
she's like, oh gosh.
He's like, again, he's a general. I'm like a baby captain or something. He's like, hey, what do you think about going to JRTC, which is Fort Polk, which is like the Army's like armpit. He's like, what do you think about going to Fort Polk? I was like,
really?
I was like,
like,
why? I was like, you can. Like, when, sure. Like, tell me when. He's like, tonight. I was like, it's Valentine's. He's like, yeah, just tell Catherine it's my fault. I was like, it is your fault. We went down, we left the hot on a plane and went to the airport. And I was like, the whole time he's like, yeah, it should be fine. I was like, I know that. So, it's just examples like that. Did I have plans that yeah, absolutely. But that's the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not a job in the normal sense, like, oh, I gotta take this Uber ride.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, if I don't do this, that's insubordination, which could land me in jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
My boss would never have done that, probably. But
still,
But
there
still,
are big ramifications for
It's
absolutely.
It's different and it's interesting, but I don't know.
So so now, right? So you're doing the reserves. You both work at Kennesaw State University. So now you guys are you guys working close? Does your line of work, both of you guys, line up? Does it touch each other? Does it overlap?
So maybe we should talk about how we got here then. So, so after working for I think the greatest boss ever, I love him, especially if he hears this. He was fantastic to me. So I was working for him, and I was like, hey, I don't want to be an infantry officer. I don't like this. The whole rip people's face off thing. That's not me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't know. I like to go to medical school maybe. Be a psychiatrist. So I took he was super supportive. I took the MCAT, and turns out I'm not as smart as I thought I was. Really great humbling experience.
Listen, I'm not even going to take it. You does not need to tell me how smart I am.
It was a very good humbling experience. My life has really got two solid themes. Catherine makes our great decisions, and I'm not as good as and so instead, I went and got a PhD. So we left, which honestly was absolutely the right call for me. We talk about finding your purpose in life. This is unquestionably where I should be, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, I said, hey, check it out. We got another move. I'm gonna leave active duty. We're going to San Antonio, and this was 4 weeks notice.
Yes.
And,
again, the timing. I'm like, tell me something. It's like, no, we're gonna cut it close.
Wow.
Yeah, I had two really, really good jobs, Army jobs. I'm talking the kind of jobs that you want to work your whole career to get, back to back. And I was lined up for a third one. I was supposed to go to Special Operations Command, and I was going to deploy again with them and do whatever. And so, Catherine, we sold our house, and the day after it sold, they canceled my orders. And they're like, oh, no, you're not going to go there. You're getting out of the Army. And I was like, oh,
no.
great. I was like, what do we do?
Yes.
And so we ended up quickly buying a house in San Antonio. We moved down there. Catherine didn't have a job. I didn't even know how much money I was going to be making working as a graduate student at the medical school there. Yes. So I was like, well, we still need to keep health insurance because William, our son, he would get sick like it's his job.
Like it's a career.
Those daycare germs.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
So moved down to San Antonio. I got my PhD there, and this is the abbreviated version in health psychology, focused on military populations.
Awesome.
And then did pre and postdoctoral fellowships in health and trauma psychology. And then I went on the job market. I got a job offer back in Seattle. I got a job offer here at Kennesaw State. So we were from Georgia, but we loved Seattle.
Okay.
So I was like, all right.
Which one?
I was like, make a decision.
Yes.
You follow me, I'm following you. I can get you either place. Where do you want to go?
Yeah.
So we flew out here on Valentine's
Day, yeah.
Yeah, and we met a realtor.
There's a pattern here with Valentine's
I know.
Day. Some I'm there for, some I'm not there for. Met a realtor. Showed us a bunch of houses. We made an offer that day on a house.
Wow.
I called and accepted the job offer, and we moved out here.
Yes. And so now, what do you do at Kennesaw?
So that's funny. So during this transition time, so like I said, I've always wanted to get my master's. And so during the time that he was able to come out here, I realized that they had a master's in social work program that I did not know about. I was like, ooh, I should apply.
Okay.
I did. And in that process, so Brian has, goodness, it's been a good bit in the sense of, so he established the center, AIMS, which is the Center for Advancing Military and Emergency Services, research.
Good
I know,
God.
right?
Just-
It's like the big.
Just say
right?
that fast five.
I know,
five
right?
times.
The big acronym, right?
Yeah, so military people love abbreviations. So they always make long names so we can shorten it.
Yes,
Like, this is
exactly.
clever.
Yeah. So it's AIMS. And so right now, I'm actually the clinical case manager for AIMS. I'm a licensed master social worker. So I was able to finally get that, check there. So we do work together. He's the director. And I'm in the clinical.
You report to him?
She does not work for
I
you.
do not work
She
for him.
doesn't.
No, I do not report
No, I'm just
to him.
saying. Like, oh, I can't. Close one. No.
But it's a really interesting dynamic because we've been together forever. Honestly, we could spend all day, every day together. But I think this goes back years. We were riding. We ride to work together. We work in the same building. We don't see each other a lot because she's very busy.
Yeah.
And then we ride home together. We eat dinner together. We never seem to run out of things to talk about. But
that's
especially
amazing.
Catherine. But
Wow, I love this all.
But the other day we were riding into work, and it's like 7 a.m. She's just talking. So I get up. I used to my routine before she started working with us was I get up at 4 a.m. I have like a half a pot of coffee. I go to the gym. I go to my office, and I have like an hour and a half, 2 hours of like quiet time with Brian. Right? I just work. I get most of my work done before 7 a.m.
Right.
And
then here comes Catherine.
And now Catherine, she's like, we should go to the gym together. I'm like, I would love to go to the gym with you.
Yes.
So I get up. We get the kids ready, and so now I have kids talking to me and wanting TV shows and waffles and oatmeal.
Yes.
I'm not used to it, and then we drop them off, and they're like blaring their kid music, and then
Kid pop.
Yeah,
Kid pop.
And
Yes.
then we go to the gym, and it's loud music there, and then we start driving to work, and she's just talking. I was like, please. I just need a couple minutes of quiet.
So when do you get? But please tell me you do get your quiet time.
I now get that on my way, but we had to have that discussion.
We did.
Yes.
So
all
it's
about
one
open
of those things.
communication.
Yeah.
Our relationship, and it's been from the time we've been together, like from the get go to like now, we keep it very real.
She
We
makes
have
something
to.
that doesn't taste good. I'm like, this is disgusting.
Exactly. if I put
And she does the
something,
same thing to me.
and I do, and I am like, no,
I
that
love
does
it.
not work, or no. But
Yeah.
we keep it very like at the very beginning, we drew out, hey, this is
This
what
is-
I like. This is and we are very good about keeping that.
Love it.
And then the same thing with like the new routine of work, right? Because it's like, oh yes, I used to, it was getting the kids ready and all of that kind of thing, and going on, and then I would be out with my day. But now that we are going to the same place, and doing that, and it's just saying, oh, okay, yes, that's right. You do need that quiet time, which. And I would too, but it would be the same.
So do you get yours too?
Oh yeah, we're both good.
Good.
Catherine doesn't need quiet time.
But I need, my quiet time is sitting there watching just whatever it is, Love is Blind on TV.
Okay.
Like that's like my just self-care and all of that. But all in all, but yes, we do. And it's funny because I think people are like, oh my goodness, y'all are going to work in the same place? I'm like, yes. And it could be, it's like, oh my goodness, how is that going to be? But the reality is that he's so busy, I'm so busy, and that
it doesn't feel like you guys are just
we're
on
not.
top of each other all day long.
Exactly.
I basically never see her. I hear her because she's pretty loud.
Oh, I am loud. But we do. But I will say that I've always learned things from Brian. He's always got all of this knowledge, and I'm like, how do you know this?
Do you sit there and watch documentaries all day? Is that what you do?
I
Like
don't
how?
watch TV. That's the secret. I don't watch TV.
You read?
Yes.
I read a lot of science.
Okay, there you go.
Like I was just giving a presentation today, and a guy got up after for like the Q&A, and he's like, "Hey, have you read this book?" I was like, "But I don't read books." I was like, nobody has time to read books. Like, who has time?
Don't say that.
Do you have you read all of those, or those?
Yes.
Have you really?
Yes, I have.
See,
I
I
don't look that he's giving me.
I love
He's like,
books.
really?
See,
What is that book about?
I love a good
I
novel
don't
and
have
those
time.
kind of things.
The other thing too is like, if Catherine says, if I sit down to read a book, I will read that whole book in one sitting.
Oh,
Or I
you're
will-
one of them.
Like,
Yes.
You're like, if I start it, I'm gonna finish
Yes,
And I-
and
and
he
it
will.
doesn't
Like
matter
the
how
book
big it
that
is.
big.
it. Wow.
Like,
Okay, I'm not like that.
I get way in, so I just don't because I don't have time.
Yeah,
Like, I don't
but
have
what I'll do is
something.
I will have to put it down at some point, but I'll read until 2-3 o'clock in the morning because I'm like,
Because you're so.
I'm like, I'm into it now. I gotta
Yes,
finish
yes.
it. Yes.
That's how. Yeah.
Yeah.
With some books.
The other thing too is like once you get a PhD, you realize like I'm not reading unless I
really have to.
Because we read so much
Yes.
that we don't care about. It's like,
yeah.
oh my gosh.
You're done with it.
Yeah, it's like I just did.
Yes.
I just did the war college for the Army, so I get promoted, to lieutenant colonel, and they give us like rooms of stuff to read.
Oh gosh.
And I was like, no one retains this, and that was my feedback to them. I was like, you're wasting people's time with this. So do I read? I read things I want to read.
Okay.
Which is rarely books.
And,
very scientific.
And one thing that I also found out in the sense of with him, it was so funny because I'm like, he works, and I'm like, you just need that downtime because I know I need that.
Oh
downtime.
yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm like, you need that downtime. But I found out because a few years back I bought him a stress watch because I was like, we gotta watch your stress. We gotta watch your stress.
If I ever be like, you're stressed, I'd take off like slam you as well. Like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I was like,
as he's slamming the wall.
Exactly.
Really,
So,
that's
like-
relaxing. By the way.
And so he was sitting there reading a journal or articles and writing all of these papers and things. And he was like, Katherine, look. And it was all blue. Like, that was what got him to, like, just, yes, calm down. And I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, oh, well, then, yeah, if this is what
This
helps
is what's helping you, then do
then
it.
do it.
Yes, absolutely.
But that was something that, because to me, downtime is like
it didn't look
taking
like that.
Right, exactly.
Self-care looks different for all of us, right?
Exactly.
So if you sit there, you're going to tell me that your self-care is reading scientific articles? That stresses me out.
Exactly.
Just thinking about that. That stresses me out.
And,
Like,
right, exactly.
right.
And that's how that's how I interpret it. I was like,
Yes.
you need to deplug.
Yeah.
And
He's like,
but on the contrary, for him, it's like, it totally gets him very, that homeostasis. And I'm like, okay, all right, got it.
So this is crazy, but we have a few minutes left. Okay. So Brian and I met through the North Cobb Rotary Club. Yay. And I want to incorporate a little bit of that into there. So, for those of you who don't know, the Rotary Club is an active group of people that provide community service not only on the local level but also on the global level. So we are very much a part of the annihilation of polio. That's a big, huge cause that we are very focused on. We're helping in the spring. We're going to go to Jamaica and help a little village with their water supply, and helping with that. So, and that's just like on a global level. And then locally, of course, we support CCYA. We just a lot of nonprofits that we support. And so why is that important to you? Why is serving in that group amongst those individuals, why is that so important to you?
Yeah, so service looks different to everybody, right? Like self-care looks different to everybody. So the AIMS Center Catherine talked about, we didn't really go into that. When we moved back to Georgia, I started looking around the university system because I was a professor, and part of our job as a professor is to do service. So professors have 3 jobs: to teach, to research, and to do service.
Got it.
Service can be to your department, and you can help organize like canned food drives, or you can, help somebody else grade their papers if they need it. Not really, you shouldn't do that, just for the record. But, service could be anything.
Yes.
Essentially, that's what I was trying to get at. And for me, having been in the military forever, I was like, well, like my whole adult life, basically, I said, well, that's bigger than organizing one canned food drive, something like that. And so I started looking around the university system, supposedly like our best and brightest minds in the state. And I said, well, who's doing what I do? Military psychology, military work. Nobody. There's no one in the university system. And I was like, well, who does first responder work? First responders are a similar population. I mean, as your husband's a retired police officer, right? How many times it's like, hey, he's got a call and he's got to run. He's working late. Oh, he's working overnight.
That's
how many times have there been trauma and stress? And he's like, I can't talk to you about it right now. Right? So it's there's a lot of similarities. And I was like, well, shoot, who's doing that work? Also, no one.
Right.
It's crazy. And so I proposed to KSU, hey, let's start a research center focused on military and first responder populations, specifically to improve their health and well-being, not only for the first responders and the military persons, but their families, and then more broadly their communities.
Yes.
And KSU's like, love it. So we are on building now. We have like 13 people or so working in there, and we're all working toward that common cause.
Yes.
And that's when I got involved with Rotary. Again, it's it's a group of people who are civically minded in the community, like my community, that I can meet with and say, hey, and I find sometimes I'll get in just like, you just wake up in a bad mood. I just wake up in a bad mood. And then I'll go to like breakfast at Rotary, and I leave, and I tell Catherine, like, I didn't want to go today, but I'm glad I went.
And they have the best grits.
They have delicious grits.
Listen.
Like
if you don't
grits,
come for the service, come for the grits.
Yeah,
Anyway.
It is. Being around like good people who care about others, and like y'all, you're the people I want to be around.
Yes.
Like, and always has been. I'm not a rip your face off guy. I don't want to do that. I don't really want to be a part of it. Like, I'll support you if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're a
you gonna rip faces, I'll be right here cheering you on.
Be the best. And I'll be a psychologist.
Exactly. That you'll have to come and talk to after that.
Well, I'll refer you to Catherine. So that's for me. And we also were pretty new to the area, so we wanted to get to know people.
Right.
And so those are our kind of people.
Yeah.
Like, hey, do you care about your community?
Right.
Rotarians do.
They do. Absolutely do.
You're who I want to be affiliated with.
Yep.
Right.
You know.
That is amazing. And we are at the end. This is crazy. I had an amazing time. And by the way, talking to Brian is always like that. The crazy thing is he talks about like the most serious stuff, but you're laughing hysterically while you're talking to him about that. That is a special skill set.
We had a friend that quoted it, story time with Brian.
Oh!
Story time with Brian. She's like, I'm always up for story time with Brian.
Listen, I think that's going to be the title of this episode now. It's crazy because I promise you, half of the time when I go into the episode, I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to title this. And as I go through the conversation, through the podcast, somebody says the right thing, and I'm like, yep, that's going to be the title.
Yep, there you go.
Story time with Brian. There you go. You're welcome.
I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and Catherine, for you just being the amazing person that you are. Like I said, Brian never stops talking about you. He's always saying, listen, I'm just here to exist. She is the reason why I am where I am, what I'm doing. And so that's amazing to see. Like, you are his backbone. You are his support. And that's amazing.
Yes.
So love it, love it, love it.
Thank you.
Insiders, I hope you all enjoyed listening to this just as much as I enjoyed recording it. I had an amazing time with Brian and Katherine gracing us with their stories and their experience, and keeping in mind, telling us the lesson here is to keep in mind military families as they go through life, not just that military part, but life, right? Really important. And, always asking, how can you help? Not thank you for your service. How can you help? We are grateful for that, by the way. But, as you know, we are dropping new episodes every Monday. We have amazing inspirational stories like Brian and Katherine's. And you can reach out to us on social media. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and Brian, if you will send us some information on how we can help, or even some information about the research center, we'll include that in the show notes, and then people can better equip themselves, learn about what the both of you are doing for our military families in the community. So I would love to share that with the listeners. And that's it. And I cannot leave without saying there's purpose in your story. I hope you enjoyed our show today. Hit the subscribe button and share. Share this pod with your family, with your friends, with your girlfriends, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Inside the Bubble with HG. Keep the conversation going. Drop us a heart emoji. Engage with us. We would love to hear from you. New episodes are dropping every Monday on your podcast streaming platforms. And remember, there's purpose in your story.